Hi Henny, how are you? Welcome back to the channel, or if you're new here, I'm Teknikolour. Thanks to the EA Creator Network, I was given early access to play with the new Sims 4 expansion pack, Enchanted by Nature. I've been playing with the pack this week on my Twitch channel, and today I'd like to share a build I made for my Sims in the new Innisgreen world. But first, if you're looking for more fun The Sims 4 builds like this, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. It really helps me grow my channel. And if you'd like to help support my content in a really big way, you can use my EA creator code, Teknikolour, at checkout on the EA app when grabbing Sims packs or even other EA games like Split Fiction or Dragon Age. It gives me a small 5% commission at no extra cost to you, and it really helps me continue being able to make content like this full time. I should mention, Enchanted by Nature is likely always going to be known as the fairy pack, since it did, finally bring fairies to The Sims 4. However, I don't have the same nostalgia around fairies from earlier Sims games, so I honestly was not super excited about fairies. And I was a little disappointed that our newest expansion pack was fairies. The only occult Sims that I've actually played with before this are mermaids and spellcasters. And this just seemed a little too much like Realm of Magic, the expansion pack edition. In fairness, I've only played with the pack for one day so far, and this video is obviously going to be more focused around Enchanted by Nature's build buy offerings, but dare I say, fairies are kind of fun. I made 2 Sims to play with to really test out the new pack, and this build is the house I built for them in Innisgreen's Spruce Dairy Grove neighborhood. The lot is called Greenwood Hamlet Residence, and I wanted something that felt perfect for a fairy and his husband. The husband isn't a fairy, but I did want him to really live off the land with the new natural living skill, and then proceeded to give him a home and basically no outdoor space. Whimsical is the word that comes to mind when I think about the build buy from this pack, and in a different way than I do of the items from Realm of Magic. Before the pack came out, I kept saying how it was going to have such good synergy with Realm of Magic. But now I'm not entirely sure. They definitely can work together, but this pack gives a much more earthy feeling. I think that might be the best way to describe it. The pack has this quirky, whimsical nature to it, but it's all very grounded and earthy. Lots of wood, natural tones, and this overall sort of natural vibe to it. I was so excited to build with the pack on stream that I actually built the shell of the home the night before and made a very rudimentary floor plan. But when I went live and it came to actually decorating and furnishing, I hit a brick wall. Originally, I gravitated towards the light green parts that I loved, specifically the new front door that has a butterfly glass inset. But wood swatches and matching being what it is in The Sims, I just couldn't get it to feel or look right. I think it's because the trim is green, but the door itself is a very light wood, which was surprisingly difficult to match with any sort of exterior wall paint. This led me to completely rethink how I wanted the entire build to look. We ended up going much darker for the majority of the build, so darker wood tones and even a darker metal framing for the glass walls. We did get a bunch of glass walls in the base game, but I am using the swatch that came with the new pack in this build. Then, embracing that white birch wallpaper I had where the glass walls ended up going for the rest of the exterior. Again, it really screams earthy to me, and I think showcases how well this pack works for that type of building and overall storytelling. So many of the build buy offerings are fascinating to me, and I'm really looking forward to what people put out once they get their hands on Enchanted by Nature. I can only imagine the actual fairy tales people are going to be creating, whether that's based on gameplay or building. I guess because this pack is so themed, it might not be everyone's cup of tea, but you really have to appreciate the attention to detail and how far the Sims team went with this pack. At this point in the build, I am painfully still holding on to hope that I can use those beautiful light green items But in the interest of time, I just had to move on and embrace a different style for this build. I do hope to build with some of the lighter swatches in the future, but for a shorter build on stream, I just had to move on. You could see that we tried a few different things, including bumping out the 2 entrances for more distinction from the rest of the build, even attempting a log cabin sort of style for the majority of the house. But once I realized that it was the actual light wood of the door itself throwing me off, and that there's virtually no wallpaper that matches it perfectly, we had to switch course entirely. When things like this happen to me when building on stream, my anxiety spikes. It's so different from building off stream and editing the speed build to look less indecisive. There's definitely been videos in the past where I've cut entire chunks out, where I just kept trying different things for real world hours to save minutes in a speed build. Watching on stream, you don't get that luxury of skipping, but it does allow for funny moments like realizing you placed a window where it's half covered by a roof piece, and it even allows for you to have some say in a build. Like, you may have been watching this and shouting at the screen that it isn't working to try this instead. During a build stream, you get to help by providing those ideas and direction that might have saved us from the past few minutes of this video. You can see exactly where we start to get our stride back with this build once we start putting windows down. There's 2 kinds of build styles in this pack, though they're still very similar, but one is more clean and detailed, and the other is full-on, built into a tree, moss-covered fairy house. The latter is the style of the windows I started using here, and oh my gosh, they just really help to push the build into that different direction. My rudimentary night before floor plan starts to take shape. We start to make this kitchen that looks as if it's literally been carved right into a tree, as if it's been part of the tree and not something that's been added in later. Here's where we get to talk about a few disappointing things about the pack. There's no new kitchen appliances. This is a bit of a hard pill to swallow, simply because the kitchen cabinets are so obviously themed that most of the existing appliances simply look out of place. To me, I feel as if some of the older looking appliances are the obvious choice to match with this kitchen set, and that's why I went with the appliances from Realm of Magic. Personally, I think they work really well here, but depending on your build's budget and your real life budget, you might be limited with what build items you have access to use. A lot of people have also expressed disappointment that these kitchen cabinets have obvious seams on the counters that we don't have in other kitchen sets, where they attach together seamlessly. It's definitely less obvious that there's a seam when you're zoomed out, but to a lot of people, this is distracting or just downright ugly. I'm not entirely sure how I feel about it. I hated it when I first realized that they didn't connect seamlessly, but I think it was a design choice and not a mistake. So feeling like there was intention behind it makes it feel more grounded in reality to me. If you carved this set out of a tree, there'd likely be seams or other imperfections. So on one hand, I kind of dig it, and on the other, I'm still not quite so sure. You might have noticed that I also rotated the fake chimney I made, and it kind of bumps into the kitchen here. I don't think it's necessarily the prime spot for a fireplace to be between the kitchen and only bathroom, but I felt inclined to embrace that imperfectness. You might not have even batted an eye and thought it didn't seem out of place, but I wasn't a huge fan of the fireplace placement after all, but loved the chimney placement on the exterior. Of course, this is The Sims, and you can place these items independently of each other, but I don't know. I was really digging that natural look and feel with this build. Looking at the finished product, I think it looks pretty realistic to have the fireplace there. I also know that there seems to be a lot of opinions about having windows as a sort of backsplash in kitchens. I feel like in the game, I 100% want a window above my sinks, which isn't out of the ordinary in the real world, but putting a window behind a stove just isn't always the right choice. It definitely wasn't the right choice here. And I'm so glad I decided to add in the wall height cabinet and kind of box in this stove. This build definitely screams cozy to me, and I think it's details like that that help give off that kind of vibe. The kitchen itself is kind of big, and while I knew I wanted the dining room to be kind of in that hallway between the front and back doors, I still wanted an island to make the kitchen an eat-in kitchen. I never really know how to build islands in The Sims, and I consistently feel like they look out of place or like there's something off about them. I usually will just change it up and make it be a peninsula. But I adore kitchens in this game that include an island, so we just fully went with it this time. If you've been following the channel for a while, does that shock you? I feel like I need to talk more about these kinds of things. I've recently noticed frustration from others when it comes to building, and how builders like myself can sometimes make the process of building look easy. It doesn't always come naturally, and I think that goes for a lot of builders out there. Plus, I think coming forward with things that bother us about our own builds, or talking about areas in which we'd like to improve, helps to do just that, improve our building. I'd be really interested to hear about how you plan out your kitchens, or what areas and builds you feel like you struggle in, or tips you think would be fun to implement. I did want to separate the kitchen from the rest of the living space though, so I ended up adding in archways that assist in bridging the two spaces. Plus, to conform with the shape of the staircase, I added in a sort of built-in storage unit that also is accessed from another archway. Doesn't this add in so much character? If you've been following for a while, you know I despise open floor plans and struggle to build them. But this feels like a nice in-between. Also, by closing in this half of the house with a hall, albeit with archways, I think it makes the house feel a little smaller than it actually is, which adds to the coziness. I end up doing the same thing with the living room, which is not what I had originally planned to do, but I think really works here. By sealing in that glass room and adding in two archways on either side of the television, it designates this as a separate area and keeps it open and perfectly mimics the other side of the house. I think having this long hallway between the front door and the back door honestly makes the house seem friendlier. I think most homes might enter into the kitchen or into the living room, even if there's a mudroom or foyer included. But this feels so charming to me. Imagine being invited over to a friend's house for dinner and you just walk right in and immediately join the group around the table. That just absolutely screams cozy and charming to me. And I didn't set out for it to be like that, but it ended up working out in the end. I added in a bunch of clutter, and you might be happy to hear that I used 0 mods in this build. I do admit, I love Twisted Mexie's Better Build By and tool mods. But since we're in that transitionary period between a big base game update and a new pack launching, I did without my mods this time. It was definitely a little frustrating to build without them, but I think it also goes to show that if you don't use or can't use mods, there's nothing wrong with your builds. In fact, some of the most talented builders are console players who can't use mods. I will say, however, since we are in this time period where modders might need to work on fixing things the update broke in their mods, please be kind to them. There's so many modders who spend their own free time and resources into creating mods that better the game, and especially if you aren't in a place to financially show gratitude for their contributions to the community, giving modders grace and time to get these updates out, I'm sure will be much appreciated and is, to be frank, the nice thing to do. Now might be a great time to mention that if you're already interested in this pack, I will be doing a giveaway tomorrow over on my Twitch channel. Obviously, you might be watching this after the fact, but I do typically get early access to new packs and get to occasionally run giveaways thanks to the EA Creator Network. It is thrilling being able to share early glimpses into new packs and even help others add to their Sims pack collections, especially because doing so can get rather expensive. So if you're enjoying today's video, you might want to consider subscribing here and maybe even following me over on Twitch. It's the same username, just Teknikolour. I know, it's not the most easy handle to spell, so I'll drop a link in the description. But I think you might like it over there, if only for the new pack releases. If you are thinking of purchasing Enchanted by Nature, picking up another Sims pack, or pretty much any EA game, I do hope you'll consider using my EA creator code, Teknikolour. I'm not paid to play The Sims, and I definitely wasn't paid to make this video. I was just given a code for the new pack and given early access to check it out. But using my creator code does earn me a small commission from EA, which, as a full-time content creator who is still looking for work to stay afloat, it is very much appreciated. Back to the build though, I should say that the bathroom build by, much like the kitchen in this pack, is also super themed. Obviously, a moss-covered toilet or shower is not going to fit into every single build, but I think you know that at this point. Am I going to use these items all the time? No, probably not. Are they going to add whimsy and immersion to my themed builds, even if they're not focused on fairies? Yes, definitely. I think when they announced that we'd be getting fairies in an expansion pack, people were a little worried, because our expansion pack occult sims are generally more disappointing than our game pack occults. However, in this case, we received a ton of themed build by and Kaz that can be used in a variety of ways, plus a new world that has a fairy neighborhood, and not just an entirely themed world, or a new world with a new secret but themed lot. I also believe that the Sims team has really been listening to what the community wants and trying their best to deliver, even if it doesn't always hit the mark. In my opinion, a lot of these newer packs are so well done compared to earlier packs. There's so much more detail and creativity being showcased, and I'm really happy to see that. Decorating the upstairs, which is the bedroom space, was a little frustrating for me because it's kind of an odd shape, long and narrow-ish. I think there's more than enough room for functional gameplay, but dealing with clipping with roof pieces was a bit of a nightmare. In fact, while building this, one of my viewers, who is legitimately one of the most talented builders I know, admitted that they usually build more flat style or modern roofs because of issues like this. So if you struggle with roofing, it's not just you, I promise. When I built most of the roof the night before, I did, in fact, need my architect boyfriend's help getting the different pieces to work together, though I'll admit that I have definitely improved in the roofing department over the past few years. That said, if you notice that the roof pieces on either side of this bedroom don't quite extend into the main taller roof piece, respectfully, no, you didn't. Okay, it's true. I couldn't get it to work. I ended up adding some roofing flourishes from Cottage Living to simply hide that they don't connect. And if you look really closely, you can see that I didn't even hide it all that well. I just couldn't deal with the clipping. It was driving me nuts. In the bedroom though, I do end up using a bit more from Realm of Magic, which, as you can see, can work well with Enchanted by Nature, even if they don't quite have the synergy I had anticipated. Around this part of the speed build, I'm also making the final adjustments to the interior and painting the floors and walls. I even adjusted the bathroom a bit and walled off the shower and toilet with a glass wall with archway, which I expected to look more out of place, but is heavily relying on that touch of whimsy to feel just right. I also use a bit of paranormal and werewolves to help fill out the build, and I think they all work well together. Back out to the exterior though, I spent some time at the end of my Twitch stream focusing on building out a backyard with a greenhouse, because I wanted an area for my Sims to focus on the new apothecary skill and gardening. Again, I'm using the new glass wall swatch, and can I just say how badly I wanted to be able to have glass walls in this game. And now that there are, it literally just feels as if we've always had the ability. I got so accustomed to them so quickly. But Sims team, thank you so much for giving us glass walls. I also wanted to add pathways to the build, so I designated spaces for walkways, landscaping, and even a tiny area in the back or a sort of back patio. I ended up adjusting the pathways using the new flooring and some fencing many times until it felt just right, and it really helped me to quickly and intentionally add landscaping to the build. Landscaping is an area I've always felt I need to improve in. So plotting out areas for that and paths and such really helped ease my pain when it came to this stage of the build. We are nearing the end of the speed build though, so why don't we hop on into the game and I can give you a quick tour. And here is the build. As you can see, we have the main house and we also have the greenhouse and then all this landscaping and pathways. Entering in through the front door, you have this nice little foyer space and the storage right over here, and it just leads right into the dining room. And you can see the back door into the rest of the outdoor space. Over on the left side, you have this beautiful kitchen with the fireplace right over here. And then this very natural looking bathroom. And then over on the right side, you actually have the living space. And I just think this looks so cozy. Upstairs, you have the bedroom over here, and it's small. It's just got the bed and some nightstands and some artwork on the wall. You've got a stand-up mirror over here, a dresser, which this dresser item is actually like really cute. And then you have a little bench over here, and that's basically the entire inside. From the back, however, you can see you exit out the back door. There is another gate on this side just because there is a back path out here, and there are some planters over here. There is a place to barbecue and just sit and relax out here. And then in the greenhouse, there are some planters over here on the left, and on the other side is the apothecary table with some extra workspaces. But that, my friends, is the whole build. Don't forget to use my creator code Teknikolour if you're planning on grabbing Enchanted by Nature or any other Sims packs. While it isn't a discount code for you, it does help take a small portion of your sale out of EA's pockets and helps to support my channel and keep content like this coming. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to download this build, you can grab it off the gallery tomorrow, once Enchanted by Nature fully releases, using my EA account ID, Teknikolour. Do you think you'll be grabbing Enchanted by Nature? Have you already pre-ordered? You do have until August 21st to order the pack to receive the bonus digital content, even though I only use the lantern in this build. Plus, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on future videos. But I'll catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.